It's a little video about evaluating functions, and then we're going to talk about composing functions. Evaluating functions, first off, what's a function? All right, we write functions like this. So here's the idea of a function is, here's a function, add 3 to any number. All right, and so if I give you the number 5, you're going to add 3 and you're going to get 8. Well, that's an example of a function, a really simple function, but that's an example of a function. Now in math, we don't need to write out all those words. We, of course, have our, we say, I have a function in mind. F is for function. We can use other letters. We could call this a G function or a Z function. Usually we start with an F function just because F starts with function. Okay, and the function I said was take any number, so that'll be an X. So any number and add 3 to that. All right, and so that's what a function is. So a function is like this black box. This is a blue box. All right. And it has an input, and then whatever the input is, we add 3 to that, and we get an output. All right, and so the example I used before was what happens when x is this x equal to 5. When I put a 5 in here, I add 3 to it, so I get 5 plus 3, and what I get out for my output is an 8. All right, and so this is how I would write it if I had a blue box. But what I want you to do is think about these functions in this way, is that when you have this f of x, wherever there is an x in your function, you're going to insert that value. Whatever the value of x is, you're going to insert that function. And so the way you would write that in this case, all right, you would say f of 5. Okay, f of 5. I didn't write it in red like I said I was going to. F of 5 is going to equal 5 plus 3. All right, notice I just replaced the x. You know, this was our original function, f of x is x plus 3. So since I was replacing the x with a 5 over here next to the function, calling this the function of, when I put 5 in, function with input 5, I put the 5 into our example. All right, so let's just think of another example, just to make sure we're on the same page here. You can put any number in here, right? Because that was my function. I want to take any number, and I want that to be put in my function as input. So there's my input. All right, and I'm going to add 3 to it. And in this case, I'm going to get a -1. Now, you can see the advantage maybe of putting the parentheses around this also, because you can put these in your calculator and let your calculator do your, take care of your pluses and minuses for you. All right, and so in this case, if we put an input of a -4 here, then we have -4 plus 3, and our output is going to be a -1 in that case. All right. All right, so that's a little intro. Now we can have more complex, we can have very complex functions, but let's make one a little more complex. We'll make this a quadratic. All right, and so we'll call this 3x squared plus 2x minus 5. All right. And so now remember, I wanted you to look at this as f of x. And so whenever there is an x, I think it really is helpful to think of that as an X in parentheses. It helps you transfer this idea that whatever is here, this is input for here. All right. And so now we have a more complex function. So we're going to take care of our little blue box here. And in this case, what's happening inside of our box? Before it was only adding 3, but now we're going to multiply. We're going to multiply this. First, we're going to square it, and then we're going to multiply it. And then we're also going to multiply it times 2. And we're also going to subtract 5. All right. So, all right, well, let's try one of our values. Let's use 4. All right, so f of 4. So I'm going to write it the same way. So f of 4 is equal to, I have a 3. Now I'm going to put the 4 right there. And I'm going to make sure I square the 4 plus 2 also times 4. All right, so and minus 5. All right, and now you can put that in your calculator exactly like that. 3 parentheses 4 parentheses squared plus 2 parentheses 4 minus 5. And that will give you your answer. I'm going to do it by hand here. I know that 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. So this is 3 times 16. And then this is 2 times 4. And then I have minus 5. So that's going to give me 48 plus 8 minus 5. And that's going to give me 51. All right, so f of 4, when I put a 4 in here, 51 comes out down here. That's my output is 51 in this case. All right, and so hopefully that's an idea about how to do evaluating functions. And now we're going to go on to an idea which is very similar to this, but which has an input into this function, which is another function.